Communications Authority of South Africa, or ICASA, appeared in court against the country's two telecoms companies. This because in June, Cell C and MTN approached the High Court in Johannesburg to challenge ICASA's end-user and subscriber service charter regulations, which were published in May this year. If ICASA succeeds, the regulations will address the out-of-bundle data costs and expiry that have been disadvantaging to the consumer. Now, let's chat to ICASA spokesperson, Paseka Maleka, who's in studio with us. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Right. So, very simply put, if ICASA is successful, what does this mean for the consumer?
This basically means that from the 28th of February 2019, all the regulations will be implemented. So if you remember, when this matter was taken to court, it was not necessarily about the contents of the regulations. It was mainly about the implementation date. So now that settlement was reached yesterday to say now the regulations can be implemented. The court has ordered that. Then that will start from the 28th of February 2019.
Okay.
So basically it means that consumers will be able to transfer their data before it expires. They'll be able to roll it over if they want to roll it over. They will be able to. They won't be charged out of bundle charges, which have been disadvantaging the consumers for a very long time. So in this case, it means that a network provider must be able to inform a consumer or to give consent to say you can charge me out of bundle rates, or I want to buy a new bundle when your data expires.
Yeah. So that is pretty much so what we've been fighting for as consumers, is that when I buy a bundle of data, if it, let's just for argument's sake say I buy 10 gigs and it is close to the end of the month and it usually says there's an expiration date on that, it's now not going to expire if everything works out accordingly. We will be able to have that I buy 10 gigs until I use up all the 10 gigs and then I continue with the rest of my package.
Yes, if you buy your 10 gigs, you buy your 10 gigs and it's just about to expire, what needs to happen is that you can roll it over to the next month. Maybe, probably, according to the current practices, you buy a data, it lasts for 30 days.
Yes.
So this means that by the 30th day, if you still want to use your data, you can roll it over to the next month. Right. Or you can transfer it to somebody else who's on the same network as you.
Okay, so that's now not implemented yet. That's what we're hoping is going to happen. So what is the next step?
We're not hoping it's going to happen. It's going to happen from the 28th of February.
It is now confirmed?
Yes, it is confirmed. There's a settlement that was reached yesterday in court, so meaning that the regulations can be implemented from the 28th of February 2019.
Which is a great victory for consumers, because this is what consumers have been fighting for.
It is. Look, at the end of the day, ICASA regulates in the public interest. That's why we wanted to defend the case from the beginning, because according to where ICASA stands, we wanted the regulation to be implemented on the 8th of June as per the regulations. But now we're taking to court. We have to abide by the court ruling on the court order. So the court order is out, so the regulations will be implemented from the 28th of Feb.
Is this going to see an adjustment to the price of data, though? Because we know that the operators are not in favor of this. So what does this mean for the price of data?
I expected that question.
Yeah, I'm happy.
But what's happening is that these regulations are not directly dealing with or indirectly dealing with the price of data. But what we are doing right now, today we are publishing a notice today. That notice is we're doing a market review of the mobile broadband market. So that's the process that's going to determine at the end how much data should be charged, because it's asking them a number of questions which the network operators must be able to respond to. Then ICASA will therefore come up with a findings document and then possibly decide on a regulation from then onwards.
Yeah. So as it stands now, I mean, is there what should data cost? Surely ICASA should know this. What should we be charged for data?
That's the reason why we're doing a market review. A market review will determine how data should be charged, how much data should be charged. So we can just wait for that process to continue and complete the process. Then after that is then that we'll be able to know exactly how much a gig of data should charge. Yeah,
I mean you've got operators that are coming into the system now. I mean I forget the name of some of these operators that are coming in at way below the data cost price of what your MTNs, your Vodacoms, your Cell Cs, etc. are charging right now. You even see Telkom coming in at a cheaper price. Why are they allowed to get away with this?
The good thing about ICASA or the regulations is because we are governed by Chapter 10 of the Electronic Communications Act that deals with competition issues. The more you introduce competition, the more prices go down. That's what we want to do, and that's exactly what we are doing as the regulator. So since these regulations were put in place, the end user and subscriber service charter regulations, we've seen a number of movements from different network operators. I mean, some of them have been sending SMSs anyway to inform you that your data you've used up 50% of your data already before this court decision. So there is that kind of movement. We are seeing changes there and there, and as a regulator, we are happy about that because at the end it benefits the consumers.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it appears that only through legislative means will these companies abide by this, because at the end of the day, they're making money, and they're making a lot of money out of us. And we all know that we pay one of the highest costs of data in the world, and it's impeding our growth as a country. When I talk about growth, I'm talking for businesses, I'm talking for education, I'm talking for development, entrepreneurial development, you name it. It is one of the biggest sticking points. It is slow and it is expensive. So these are things that need to change, and urgently. All the other provisions, have they been made now already? I know that there was a ruling earlier. This was what was stopping some of the implementations happening. But everything else, I mean, I've noticed that the companies have now started sending SMSs for minutes, for data, for everything. So that looks like it's happening.
It is happening. We are also seeing it, but at the same time, we wanted to be sure because we wanted the court order to come out. So it's out now. So there's no way a network operator can say, I'm not going to implement this. Besides the regulations forcing the operators to implement the regulations, I mean, there's a court order at the same time. So we are hoping, and we're not necessarily hoping, but we know that it's going to happen.
Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit more about this investigation that you're going to do, or the process looking into the cost of data, and perhaps the ceiling that data should be charged at. How do we compare to the rest of the world? I mean, I know I've seen lots of articles out there, but from ICASA's perspective, do you agree that we are being ripped off as consumers from the providers?
Well, there is a perception that the cost of data is high, but at the same time, we must be careful how we deal with it. Who are we comparing ourselves with? Because in other countries, the spectrum has been licensed. For instance, the 2.6 gigahertz spectrum has been licensed, and that allows for more services. That allows for broadband services. But in our country, we haven't as yet. So that's why I'm saying it depends from where you're looking at it. But generally, we believe that the cost of data is still a bit high. So that's why as ICASA we try to come up with pro-competitive remedies to try and deal with this particular issue and address the cost of data.
I mean, it's even become a political issue. You've even got political parties jumping and saying data is too high, it must fall. The ruling party is one that's saying it has to go down. So it's something that needs to be done very fast. This study into data prices, when can we expect the findings on this?
Well, we are publishing the document today, and basically, we're looking at between 6 to 18 months to deal with the issue. The reason why we're saying this is because, as a regulator, you can't just come up with a decision and implement it immediately. What needs to happen? Remember, since we've published this document, this questionnaire today, we are going to receive the comments. Once we've received the comments, we then come up with there'll probably be public hearings. After public hearings, and probably go forward and come up with a findings document. The findings document can come as early as the end of the financial year, which is next year, end of March. It's possible that it can come out. But at the same time, other processes will continue after the findings document. Say, for instance, the authority decides on having a regulation that specifically deals with that. Then the regulation will therefore be able to publish the draft regulation and start the consultation processes as well. Because if we don't do that as a regulator, we are risking litigation. And it's important in terms of the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act to ensure that we consult and we provide reasons why we took a particular decision.
Okay, but the story for today is that from the end of February next year, data will be rolling over. That is the victory, that is what we're celebrating, and that is for the consumer. So if that doesn't happen at the end of February, then your service provider is basically breaking the law.
It is breaking the law.
You have to now ensure that your data rolls over, and that will be the new policy going forward from next year.
Yes. At the moment, they're probably looking at aligning their systems to fully comply with the regulations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for updating us on what happened. This is ICASA spokesperson Paseka Maleka saying that victory for the consumer. You will now see that after I suppose a protracted contested court battle between Cell C and MTN. It's now reached an agreement where data prices and your data will roll over to the next month. It won't expire as of the 28th of February next year. All right, let's take a